the clown and had a high old time. Nobody doubted he is true of purpose. Oh yeah, not knowing we have given up everything we have lived. All of the knobs don't need extra here in this dead and that's the bad. That's down the riding on a midnight train. That's the bad. Conscience is burning to the end. That's the bad. Blade is already on a jugular vein. That's the bad. Each time whenever let it stand. Give me a break, you damn. Just wanna get back with that fun kid. Lazy down. What a heavy day.
We'll do it live.
Okay.
We'll do it live. Fuck it. Do it live. I'll write it and we'll do it live. Fucking thing sucks.
Hey, what's up, guys?
Hey guys, how's it going?
Today we got the old co-host, and we got a very special guest. He goes by Misandry today. He also goes by Doomsday Jesus. And we're going to have a very interesting but somewhat controversial show today. Before we get to that, we're going to talk about who DDJ or Misandry today is. He is a best-selling author of the book that you see below, The Feminist Lie, a former family law paralegal, and much, much more. So the topic that we're going to talk about today is how feminism and single motherhood have affected crime. And that's why we have our subject matter expert here on the job. So go ahead and say hello, DDJ. Oh, go ahead and say hello, DDJ. Sorry, I'm on push to talk. I forgot already.
Hey guys, how you guys doing today?
Yeah.
Right on. Yeah, Lone Wolf's on push to talk. Hey, let me make sure I'm all squared away here. All right, so yeah, for those who don't know, I'm DDJ. I am the author of The Feminist Lie under the pen name Bob Lewis. I run the Misandry Today YouTube channel as well as the Misandry Today Twitter channel. In addition to that, I co-host 2 live streams with Turd Flinging Monkey. I co-host the Turd Flinging Monkey 420 show on Wednesday mornings at 8 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. And I co-host the Turd Flinging Monkey show, which is a talk show on Saturday evenings at 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. And then, of course, I run DDJ's Inferno, which is a Sunday show live streamed on Twitch, and that starts at 2:30 normally Pacific Standard Time. So, Lone Wolf, thank you for inviting me. I appreciate being here. And thank you, everybody who is in the live audience right now.
Hey, man. I'm glad you're here. I've read your book. And that's kind of partially. I'm a dumbass. Yeah, I'm glad to have you here. And, I read your book, and that made me think a lot about different things. Part of it was kind of hard to get through because there's just so much information that it's like sort of put me to sleep. So much data to sort through. That's about the middle of the book where it's just pure facts, just information. And so I'd actually been thinking a couple weeks ago about the crime rate, specifically the violent crime rate, and sort of just the degeneracy that we have going on right now with, single motherhood and just immorality being sort of the norm anymore. And I just felt like single motherhood and feminism and all that stuff may be partially to blame. So I figured I'd have you on here as more of a subject matter expert than myself. So can you begin, make the case?
Yeah, so here's the thing. Feminists for 100 years have been talking about how they've been oppressed, they've been upset, they've had all these, supposedly systemic obstacles in their way. And the more I read about it, the more I learned about it, the more I realized that just wasn't the case. And for me, it was one of those things that I was like, there really isn't a very good book out there about anti-feminism for the average person. There's a lot of books on feminism, but either they're written by PhDs or they're written by postgraduate scholars, and they're written at a postgraduate scholar level. They're not written for like the average person, and with the divorce rate being super high, with relationships dying at the level that they're dying, it's average people that are suffering. It's not just the people that are going to college. And so the biggest challenge is how to put together a book that's got good information, but also make sure that it obviously is approachable for people who read. I wrote it for people who don't read. So I wrote it for the guy on the construction site who, he's working 15 hours a day, and maybe he's taking his lunch on the construction site, and he normally doesn't get a chance to read because he's too tired when he's done working. And of course, because he doesn't have a college education, maybe his vocabulary is not that great. I wanted something for him to read. So I ended up cutting like 100 pages out of the book. But, you touched on an important thing, and that is that, there's a lot of peer-reviewed studies. There's a lot of investigative journalism that was involved in putting together the book. And there were a lot of issues. You said you had to put the book down a couple times. I actually had to put the book down a couple times writing it. There's some heartbreaking stories inside there where, like the guy who was, rich and successful and got divorce raped and ended up committing suicide. Writing that note and reading that note, oh my God. I actually had to put the book down for a couple days after I wrote that section. So, it's not an easy subject to grasp, but thankfully it's one that has resonated with the audience, and it's one that, it's close to my heart. It's something that I care a lot about as a former family law paralegal. And, and it was interesting because, after you read the book and you reached out to me and we got to know each other, it was interesting how, our conversations kind of evolved into this whole conversation about gun rights and civil rights as they relate to, and how feminism kind of encroaches on those things. And the other thing I think that was interesting, and one of the things that was really, I wanted to do kind of more of a deep dive on, was chapter 3, which is how feminism destroys society. There's a lot of people talk about, feminism's good for women, feminism's bad for men, and that conversation, it gets reframed around gender roles, and those things are important. Those things are extremely important to talk about. But there's an element that's missed. That element is, how does feminism affect the greater society as a whole? And the reality is, Milo said it. Milo Yiannopoulos said it. Feminism is cancer. And you look at these different neighborhoods that have, super high crime rates, and they are, completely just, they're ghettos, for lack of a better term. And the one thing they all have in common, it doesn't matter what kind of ghetto it is, the one thing they have in common is that these are primarily communities that are dominated by single parent households. And in many cases, these single parent households are dominated by single mothers. Now, why is this important? And why is this relevant? Well, in 1960, let me see if I can find the information here. I'm just going to I'm going to touch on some things. I took some notes, and so I'm going to kind of refer to some notes here and, talk about some stuff. The first thing I'm going to bring up is there's in 2015, Nicole Howell, she wrote a dissertation for it was called the Olivet Nazarene University, and she was getting her PhD in education. And as part of her doctorate, she had to write a dissertation. I'm going to actually quote that dissertation. And I know we talked previously before the stream about how, you're going to upload this, or I'm going to grab it, and one way or another, we're going to put it on YouTube. I'll put the links to all this information, and I'll make sure you've got these links as well, so you can provide them to your audience so that people can, look at this themselves. I pulled out a couple key quotes out of this dissertation, and the dissertation is entitled "A Link Between Single Parent Families and Crime." And again, this was published by Nicole Howell at Olivet Nazarene University in 2015. And basically it talks about Patrick Fagan, PhD. He reported that in 1950, for every 100 children born, 12 lived in a broken home. But today, for every 100 children born, 60 will live in a broken family. Okay? That, just so we're on the same page here, that is an increase of 500%. All right? Just to be clear, so there's no confusion. Pardon me. Fagan also reported that each year, about 1 million children experience the divorce of their parents, and 1.25 million children are born out of wedlock.
Hey, Shogun.
Now, in 2009, the Census Bureau reported that there were approximately 13.7 million single parents in the United States, and those single parents were responsible for raising 21.8 million children under the age of 18. And most of that population, most of those single parents, were women. Now, the reason why this is important is because later in her dissertation, she talks about how, basically that the crime rate in all these single parent neighborhoods is skyrocketing. And part of the reason for that is that there's so much poverty. These single moms, they don't have job skills, they don't have education, they had children at a young age, and so they're living below the poverty line. And lots of research show that one of the main causes, one of the main contributing factors to a crime rate in a community is poverty. And one of the main contributors to poverty is a single mom. And again, I know, you may or may not be familiar, and maybe some of your audience may not be familiar, but Turd Flinging Monkey and I, we co-host this other show, and we have these conversations publicly all the time. And one of the things we talk about is that single mothers are not net taxpayers as a group. There might be some that are here and there that may be, but the reality is they're not net taxpayers. It's men who are the net taxpayers in the United States. And there's stats on that. I don't know where those stats are, and maybe you can dig through some of his videos and find it, but I just kind of wanted to make sure I put that out there. Now, the reason that I bring this up and the reason why it's important is because Barack Obama talked about this. He talked about this, and he was saying that, when it came to African-American children, he said that, and this is a quote from him, more than half of all black children live in single-parent households. The number has doubled since he was a child. Well, he says since we were children, but I wasn't a child with him, so now you know.
DJ, let me ask you a question real quick.
Go for it.
When they're taking into account these statistics, do they consider a single mother to be just a woman who is divorced, or are they looking at no involvement at all on the part of the father?
They're actually, when they count these numbers, they're talking about all single mothers. So this would be a single mom who had a child would be a single mom who was married, and basically, regardless of how she got fucked and had the kid, that's pretty much where it's at.
Okay, so these don't include like like the visitation schedule that I have with my daughter. It's every other weekend, one day during the week for like 2 hours. So that they don't really look at would they consider her a single mother, I guess is what I'm trying to ask.
Yes, they would.
Okay.
Yeah, they would.
All right.
Now, I will say this, though. I think that those numbers are a bit higher. And given the population of the United States with about 220 to 250 million adults living here, I would say that those numbers are probably, because those numbers that I grabbed, I think that was from like 2009 or 2008 census. My guess is that number's probably increased by at least 10% since then. That's just a guess, but we'll know when the new census comes out in, I think it's 2020 or 2022 or something like that. I don't quite remember. But whenever the next census comes out, I mean, we're due for another census soon, I guess is what I'm trying to say. But what's interesting is that, even Barack Obama talked about this, and this was something that was published by PolitiFact. And again, I'll give you guys a link to that. But he said in 2006, 91.4% of single parents of black children were mothers. Now that hasn't changed. And even in 1960, it was lower than it is today. And again, most of those single parents are mostly women. Now, the reason I bring this up is because, and the thing about the reason I want to quote Patrick Fagan. Patrick Fagan has done a lot of work in this area. He is probably one of the lead experts in this area. He's worked with the American Enterprise Institute. He's worked with the Heritage Foundation. He is one of the leading experts. He's a PhD, and he does a lot of research on this subject, and he talks about the differences. In fact, I cite him in my book in chapter 3. And for those people who haven't read it, just to kind of give you a synopsis of that section. Basically, Patrick Fagan takes the intact family and compares it with a broken home, and shows that families that have the biological mother and the biological father living in the home raising the children, those children have better outcomes throughout life than families that are raised where the children are raised by a single mother in a broken home, regardless of the reason that family has a single mother led household. Now, the reason that this is even more important is that if that intact family lives in a ghetto or lives in a high crime community that's primarily dominated by single parents, those children still have better outcomes. It's like the intact family insulates them from the crime and the unethical behavior and all the trauma around them. So the reason I bring that up is because the Heritage Foundation published a report called "The Effect of Marriage on Child Poverty," and this was written by Robert Rector, Patrick Fagan, and Kirk Johnson. And just I'm gonna kind of have bullet point a couple things real quick that I think are important. The poverty rate, according to this report, let me see if I can remember when this report was published. This was published in 2002. So it says that the poverty rate for all children in married couple families is 8.2%. By contrast, the poverty rate for all children in single parent families is 4 times higher at 35.2%. And then, according to this report, the number of single parent families has grown considerably since the onset of the war on poverty. In 1960, less than 12% of children lived in single parent families. By 2000, that number had more than doubled, rising to 27.6%. Now, the reason I bring this up, and the reason I think that this is so telling, is that in 1960, we didn't have second wave feminism. We had intact families. First wave feminism kind of fizzled out in a lot of ways, and second wave feminism really hadn't taken hold yet. And by the mid-late 60s, second wave feminism pretty much ran society. I mean, it really got a foothold. It changed the way that society operated. And, again, prior to feminism, you're talking 8.2% for intact families. And, again, the poverty rate was 35%. And, but the amount of people living in single parent, or the amount of kids growing up in single parent household went way up. So when the amount of single parent households went up, by default, the crime rate rose. And again, these communities, you see them all the time. You know, everybody knows every big city has got a horrible, it's just, you know, a horrible neighborhood. They have this whole issue with, you know, gangs and all sorts of crimes. It's absolutely ridiculous.
Now, do you have
any stats
regarding? Do you have any stats regarding, like, say, you say the crime rate, but that could mean a lot of different things. Now, do you have the stats of maybe violent crime as opposed to, you know, if we remove like theft?
Well, I can tell you, I can tell you here. So I did look at that a little bit, and there's an activist who runs a blog called The Fatherless Generation, and he has some stats that he cites. And as far as crime is concerned, and this is kind of more of a general sort of thing, it said that basically 70% of youths in state-operated institutions come from fatherless homes, which is 9 times the average. And 85% of all youths in prison come from fatherless homes, which is 20 times the average, or 20 times basically the intact family rate. Now, that also, because of the way that crime works, and I've looked at some stats, crime stats in front of me compared to the nonviolent crime, but I can tell you this, that those stats pretty much parallel across the board between nonviolent crime versus violent crime, if that makes sense. I can tell you this. Oh, here we go. I got a stat here for you. 80% of rapists motivated by anger come from fatherless homes. Justice and Behavior from 1978. So they've known this for a long time. This is not new news. They've known this since the 70s. Let me see if I can touch on a couple others here for you. 85% of children who exhibit behavioral disorders come from fatherless homes. This is from the Center for Disease Control. 90% of adolescents repeat arsonists live with only their mother. This is from a book called Dousing the Kindlers from Psychology. I'm sorry, it's an article called Dousing the Kindlers from Psychology Today from 1985. 71% of high school dropouts come from fatherless homes. This is from the National Principals Association report on the state of high schools. 75% of adolescent patients in chemical abuse centers come from fatherless homes. And this is Rainbow's F for All God's Children, whatever that is. And then again, 70% of juveniles in state-operated institutions have no father. And this is from the U.S. Department of Justice Special Report, September 1988. Again, the thing that blows my mind about this is, again, we've known this knowledge for, 20, 30, 40 years in some cases. And everybody acts like single moms are, fantastic and this and that. I mean, but even like, everybody points to like Bill Clinton and they point to Barack Obama as like the model of a single mom household. But the reality is that their moms didn't raise them. If you look at Bill Clinton's history, Bill Clinton's mom gave Bill to his grandparents, and his grandparents raised him. And it's the same thing is absolutely true with Barack Obama. She was in the middle of the cock carousel, and she decided she needed to go do that. And so she gave Barack Obama to his grandfather and grandmother. In fact, he talks about...
Can you,
I'm sorry?
For the audience that doesn't know what the cock carousel is, can you explain that to them?
Absolutely. So when a woman is of prime breeding age, usually somewhere between 18 and on, but I've heard of situations where it's happened in early teens, where basically a woman will be horny, or she her hormones are raging, and she gets all this attention from thirsty cuck men, and she just decides that she's going to go for broke and fuck as many of them as she can. And so we call that the cock carousel. It's sort of like a fast food line, but it's kind of like a circular thing. So yeah, it's the cock carousel. And the thing is I want to make sure, and there's another statement that's important that needs to be made as well, and that is that when a woman has a certain number of sexual partners, she can't pair bond. That's why you can't turn a hoe into a housewife. This is knowledge from 50, 100 years ago. And it's something that I go into in chapter 8 of my book, where I talk about how feminism promotes promiscuity culture, and how young girls who are raised in single parent households, i.e. by single mothers, they reach the age of maturity faster, and they end up with all kinds of psychological problems. They end up with all kinds of mental health problems. And more importantly, You know how like some kids will self-mutilate, like they'll cut themselves or they'll do other unhealthy behaviors. You guys know what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, a lot of women, especially women from single-parent households, and I document this in my book, they self-mutilate with cock. They decide to become sexually promiscuous at earlier ages. I'm serious. That's the fucked up part.
That's one way to put it, I guess.
Yeah. They're like, I hate myself. Give me dick. And it's just, there you go. So
I'm laughing, but this is,
go ahead.
I'm laughing about this, but this is something that's kind of near and dear to my heart as a dad who's dealing in a situation where I have 4 days a month with my kid. So I'm listening to this and I'm thinking, what are my chances of my daughter trying to pull the same thing? I mean, we've been through the parental alienation, and we're still going through that right now. And she's
I can tell you those chances are 100%, and that's on the low end.
Yeah.
And the problem is that we don't have multi-generational mentorship anymore. And so, it used to be that moms would teach their children certain things, dads would teach their children certain things, but more importantly, mom and dad both had grandparents and aunts and uncles and people in their immediate vicinity who they were, they would get additional wisdom from, if that makes sense.
Right.
Give me just a second here. Apparently I've got some siren going on. All right, I'm good. Thank you for your patience. So I mean that's the thing that's most important. And the reality is that the reason why this is so absolutely important is because we don't teach our children resilience anymore. So, everybody talks about protecting your children from trauma, but nobody talks about what the fuck do you do if your child is in trauma they can't help. I mean, let me give you an example, like a light example. If your kid goes outside and it's raining and the kid gets wet, you're like, hey, dumbass, don't walk outside in the rain without a coat or an umbrella or something. But we don't say, how do you recover when somebody, takes advantage of you? Or how do you avoid that? But more importantly, how do you recover from it? How do you recover from the tragedies that life has that, that may damage you psychologically? We used to teach our kids that. We don't teach that anymore because, again, the people who would teach this type of stuff, the fathers, they're not part of the equation anymore, because feminism's war on marriage and feminism's war on men has destroyed so many families. Divorce used to be so low, and now it's like it's at epidemic levels. Listen, if divorce was a disease, the divorce rate is approximately somewhere around in the mid 40s. I think it's like 46% at the time I wrote my book. It's still within that area. If we had a disease that infected 46% of adults, don't you think for a second that we'd be like, holy shit, this is an epidemic, we got to handle this now? Of course. So it's ridiculous. Speaking of ridiculous, I got apparently there's like some kind of an emergency around me. So people are dying.
Getting wild over there. Greyskull, you got any other questions? I know you got tons of questions for this dude.
Yeah, I mean, as far as crime, I guess, I mean, that's really the topic was, single mothers and crime correlation. I was talking with my wife earlier today. She's in law enforcement, and we were talking about the statistics on people who are incarcerated. And I can't remember the number that she gave me, but I think it's like 70% of these guys that are incarcerated came from single mother homes. And that's staggering to me to think about, and especially, like I mentioned before, with my personal situation, that what can we do as fathers to try to kind of cull this a little bit, given the time that we're allotted.
Well,
excuse me, guys. Hang on. Broccoli, or shall I say, Big Towel Life. You know what to do.
All right, there you go. Let loose the broccoli of war. Yeah, what do we do? Honestly,
stand by just a second, guys.
All right.
Garbage day!
Huh?
No!
The number one thing is that we have to work moving away the welfare state. Nice.
Rocco, you got the wrong potato, buddy. You grabbed the wrong one. Wex is one of my regulars. Do me a favor and untime him out.
All right, let me know when you're ready.
Yeah. Wex, man, he got the wrong one. I guess he didn't know who I was talking about.
That's okay. It's broccoli. Oh, well.
No, that guy's one of my regulars, man. I give them, respect for being here almost every stream. So.
Yeah. Well, you tried broccoli. It's all baby Jesus asks for. So, what do we do? What do we do to address the issue with single parents? Quit having children out of wedlock. One of the things I talk about, I think it's in chapter 7 of my book, is I talk about sperm jacking. I mean, everybody likes to have sex. Sex is fun if you're doing it right in, original tone. So, but the problem is that a lot of women lie about being on birth control, and there's very few realistic ways of having birth control beyond a condom for men. There's next to nothing that's realistic, that doesn't have stupid amounts of side effects. So number one, don't put yourself in a situation where you're going to have a child out of wedlock. I think that's the first thing, and make sure that if you do have sex with a woman out of wedlock, make sure that you're using a condom, make sure that condom gets flushed, make sure it goes down, make sure she doesn't sperm jack you. I mean, those things are extremely important. The second issue is I think that there needs to be, in a perfect world, there needs to be a refocus on family and family values. But the problem that you have with that is that the laws have changed, and all these feminists have reframed normal male-female interactions as abuse. So you get into a situation where female hypergamy, which is a woman's instinct to find the best provision she can and to find the best genetic mate she can, has been unrestrained by all these feminist laws, and male dominance has been criminalized. So a man can't even protect himself if he finds out his woman's cheating on him.
Right. So with all these statistics of the problems that single mothers cause, with your family law background, are the courts even taking this into consideration? Are they ignoring it? Are they sweeping it under the rug? Or what's their response?
Before you answer I just want to, I want to interject real quick before you answer that. Just remember that, we got guys who are from, your audience that are here that know what you're talking about. And then we got guys that are from my audience that probably have no clue what you're talking about.
Yeah. Okay. That's fine. Well, then I guess I should say this. For the people from my audience who are here, take it easy on the guys that are not from my audience, because they may not have the type of education that you have. So just go easy on them. And I'll try to define my terms as I go through.
All right. Appreciate it. Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. But if I miss something, catch me on it, and I'll be happy to go back. Just cut me off. So when it comes to the family courts, in the early 1980s, there was a group of feminist activists that created a domestic violence intervention program called the Duluth Model, and they lied about it. They faked their information, and they said, look, patriarchy, this idea. Now, when I talk about patriarchy, I'm not talking about the dictionary definition of patriarchy. I'm referring to the feminist redefinition of patriarchy. They have this feminist myth that basically, before second wave feminism kicked in, that we lived in a society, that Western society was oppressive to women by definition. And that wasn't the case. That was never the case. There's never been a situation or a civilization in the Western world that was expressly formed or that was expressly maintained for the purpose of oppressing women. On a good day, it's bullshit, and it doesn't pass the straight face test. So the challenge you have is, so we fast forward to 1980. They lie, they fake their evidence, they create this Duluth model, and they didn't actually admit that they lied until 25, 30 years later, when I actually document it in a video about the Duluth model. If you find the video, if you go to my channel, it's got a rainbow flag with a feminist symbol in the center of it, and it's called, I forget the name, it's like Duluth and something else is in the title. It's the only video I've got about it. But basically, I quote where in this textbook, one of the co-founders, Ellen Pence, wrote that this was a full agenda to criminalize non-criminal behavior. And they did this to change the way society operated. Well, and as part of that agenda, they were able to take this false information, these lies, and they were able to sell it to legislators around the country. So now we have a feminist organization in every police department. We've got one in every courthouse, and we have laws in place, feminist laws in place that discriminate against men. And this goes doubly true for family law and family law professionals. In order to do anything in family law, including be a judge, you've got to take this Duluth model training, which teaches that all men are oppressors and all women are victims. And so since 1980, you have multiple generations now of people that have been socially indoctrinated into these lies. And again, just to reiterate, the co-founder admitted she was lying. So now when a guy walks into a family court, the professionals, the judges, the police officers, the bailiff, the judicial assistant, everybody involved will look at that man with suspicion right out of the gate, and will look at the woman as a victim no matter what. And so the challenge you have, and so what happens is that they are automatically suspecting everything that you say is a lie and everything she says is the truth. Again, women are victims, men are criminals. And this is by design. So when you walk into a family court, you're never going to find a family court judge or a family court professional who A, hasn't taken the Duluth model indoctrination training, or B, isn't a feminist. So the courts are saturated. And so the only way to really deal with that is to not go there. I mean, one of the things we talk about is that in my audience, we talk about avoiding commitment, avoiding cohabitation, and avoiding marriage in cases where you can. You know, I mean, obviously there's a lot of married people out there, but even the marriage rate since feminism took over, to give you an example, so we're looking back at stats again. 1960, 72% of American adults were married. Today, it's 55%. And some of that 55% are like second marriages. So they're still products of divorce.
Right.
So it's hard. And I mean, come on, you can't parent your child 4 days a month. We both know that.
Yeah. And that's one of the things that frustrates me so much, like in my personal situation. When we were going through our divorce, I'd recently gotten out of the Marine Corps, and I just came back from a year-long deployment in Iraq. And we had to sit down with a mediator, and I walk in the door, and this guy's, I can tell immediately he's on her side. He's there to protect her from me. And so we go through this whole big thing, and we get this custody agreement laid out, and he tells me, well, you can get her for 4 weeks during the summer, but that's not going to happen this year. And I said, why not? He said, well, you abandoned her for the last year. And my attorney grabbed me and pulled me down because I was ready to beat this guy to death. And
he's like, don't do it. They're trying to make you have a reaction. And I just, that was my experience with just the mediator. This is before anything's even gone to court. So, I mean, I can see what you're saying. I've seen it firsthand. It's horrible.
Well, and just so you know, and this is something that a lot of people don't realize. So there's a big push in family law, and it's been for about the last 5 or 10 years to push everybody into mediation. Now, the reason is because they use the mediation to do what's referred to in the legal system as character rehabilitation. So if she's a hag, or if she's a cunt, or she's a liar, they go into the mediation, they try to push your buttons, And then the mediators will actually report to the judge. There's actually forms you don't see, and they don't file them with the court file, but they go to the judge. It's ex parte contact. It is a violation of the civil rules, but almost every court does it, and every mediation organization does it. And these organizations are filled with white knight cucks and feminist male manginas who, all they do is they take her side. And then basically what they do is they bully you. That's what their purpose is. Their purpose is to bully you. Take whatever is on the table and go from there. And these people don't have any fucking legal experience at all. The majority of them are just gender studies degrees majors that can't find a job, anything else. So they go in there and they're just like, yeah, you're a man, I hate you. I mean, I went through mediation with my ex, and so we get to talking, and I asked the mediators in the beginning, I'm like, so what kind of legal experience you guys have? And they're like, well, we don't. There were two mediators. It was a man and a woman. The man was a white knight, and the woman was like some African American intersexual feminist that had like fucking 4-colored hair. And they're like, well, we don't have any legal experience. I said, well, then what qualifies you to be a mediator? And they're like, well, we're just here to help people come to agreements. I was like, okay, so you're impartial? And they're like, yeah. So then they started trying the same shit with me, and I was like, you guys don't sound very impartial. You sound like you're trying to advocate for her. I mean, is she paying you? I mean, I'm curious. And they're like, well, you're being rude. I said, no, I'm being curious. I said, this is a legal issue, and the United States has an adversarial legal system. So, these are questions I need to know. I need to know, I mean, is there a relationship outside the mediation you have with my ex? I mean, I'm trying to figure out why you guys are being so biased. And they lost their shit. They separated us. They tried to bring me in another room. They tried to, get me going. And I was like, I said, look, I'm not the guy you fuck with like this. All the stuff I used to do was litigation. And over half the cases I touched went to the appellate court. Many of them involved law enforcement investigation, false allegations of abuse. I was like, and you're telling me all this shit, and I'm not seeing any evidence of it. And you're telling me things that you want me to waive rights that I know that I don't have to waive. So other than paying you a bunch of money that I should be paying my attorney, what are you here for other than to advocate for her? I mean, if you're advocating for her, why don't you just go to court and testify on her behalf?
Right.
And they didn't like that shit at all. So we ended up not mediating. And then, of course, they report to the court, DDJ is holding this up, and here's the problem. And so they were like, well, is this true? And I was like, no, it's not true at all. I said, I found bias within the mediators. I said, they were feminist bigots. Of course, I said this in a full courtroom, so nobody liked that. But yeah, but I mean, but to go back to your question, what can we do? Honestly, the only way that you're going to fix this problem is, and the sad part about it is that we're in stage 4 of feminist cancer. The United States foreign aid, it exports feminism around the world, and when the United States isn't doing it, the cucks from Canada are doing it. So it's a twofold solution. One, you have to eradicate feminism and the bigots therein, and two, you've got to repeal all the laws, because it's the laws that discriminate. And then you have to get anybody who is a feminist who sits on a court bench, anybody who's a feminist who's a family court professional, you need to get them the fuck out of there, because their job is to discriminate against men. It's not to do anything else. And the sad part about it is that they've been so completely indoctrinated they don't even know. And what I'm talking about specifically when I talk about this type of indoctrination, there was a man who was an ex-KGB propagandist, and he defected from communist Russia, and he came to the United States in the late 70s. In the early 80s, in 1984 specifically, he did an interview. His name is Yuri Bezmenov, or Bezimov. I apologize. Yeah, Yuri Bezmenov. Thank you, Broccoli. He did an interview with the Cato Institute. It was a 90-minute interview. They've cut it up. It's all over the internet. It's all over YouTube. And he talks about social justice warriors in the 80s and talks about what kind of cancer they are. And the sad part about it is that he was saying that, you know, communist Russia didn't want to do like the James Bond style, you know, spying on the United States. Their goal was to turn the United States socialist and communist. It was basically to over a period of time, to introduce social justice, to introduce Marxism, to introduce communism, to introduce socialism into the country, and to indoctrinate generations of people to do it. And he said that once you've indoctrinated these people to do this, that you can't unindoctrinate them. They're there. That's and that any generation that gets gets that type of indoctrination, they're just lost, because they're never. And you see this. You see this with Antifa. You see this with all these other dipshits that are running around, you know, breaking the law. They all come from fucking feminist race homes. They're all card-carrying intersectional feminists. They're all social justice warriors. And so we're clear. I'm not discussing like legitimate civil rights activists, like the 1960s civil rights activists. The feminists came into the civil rights movement, and they practice what's called entryism, which is a communist tactic. And they co-opted these movements into feminist movements. And then once they got their rights, they didn't give a fuck about it. There's like the homosexuals in the 70s, early 70s and late 60s, they all helped the feminists out, and then the feminists fucked them in the end, and not in the good way. And these guys were upset. There were people out there, they were like writing articles and op-eds going, why are these feminists turning on us? Why are these feminists not supporting us? It's because they were using you. I mean, that's what these feminists do. They're corrupt. They use everybody, and then when they're done, they throw them the fuck away. And feminism was never about equality, even all the way back to first generation. So when you see this kind of indoctrination, and you see this socialist Marxist bullshit, and again, many of these second wave feminists were absolute socialists and absolute communists. They don't give a shit about gun rights. They don't care about your civil rights. They don't care about the Constitution. And they've been doing everything in their power to avoid it. And while we're talking about the Constitution, let me go ahead and rant a little bit about one of the things they did with the Duluth model. What they did was they created, and I'm in the middle of doing a series on this. I've just scripted a video. It's a 3-part series called Parallel Systems of Injustice. And one of the things that they did was they basically created a system to violate a man's civil rights. So they could accuse him of a crime in a civil setting instead of a criminal setting. And that man so accused gets no civil rights whatsoever. So let's say, let's say Lone Wolf gets accused of sexual assault. Well, what normally happens? You call the police, law enforcement gets involved, they do an investigation. Depending on whether or not there's evidence from the investigation, let's say they arrest him, and if he really did it, then he goes to jail. Then the prosecutor goes and starts a prosecution proceeding. They go in front of a jury of his peers. They do discovery. They find out, yeah, he's a creeper, and they convict. A jury of his peers convicts him, and he goes to jail. Well, throughout that process, Lone Wolf has some civil rights, as does any man, any woman accused of a crime in the United States. He has a right to know what his charges are. He has a right to confront his accuser. He has a right to cross-examine the evidence. He has a right to an impartial jury of his peers. He has a right to a fair and thorough investigation. He has a right to due process. And he has a right to an unbiased judge. So there's a lot of these, there's more rights that he has as well, but those are just kind of the broad strokes. Right. But what feminists did with the Duluth model is they created a civil domestic violence program. And what that did is that a woman could never contact the police. She could never file a police report, and she could just go into family court and go, Mr. Smith beat me up. And based on a lower level of evidence, she just accused him of a crime. But in family court, because it's civil, you get none of those civil rights that I just outlined. Oh, and you also get a right to a free attorney if you can't afford one. And you get a right to competent legal advice. But if you walk into family court, all those rights I just outlined, you don't get any of them. Not one. So you could be convicted in family court of a crime and have your rights taken and be forced into supervised visitation and have your child. You talk about how it sucks to having 2 hours a month under supervision where the supervisor tells you you can't hug your child.
Right.
You've never been charged with a crime.
And I know that guys that's happened to. I mean, that's horrible.
Yeah. And they've been doing this since the middle 80s. Now, the reason why this is such cancer is because the Duluth model is mandated in over 30 states in the United States. And even the states that don't use the Duluth model, they use a model that's based on it. And again, it's based on a lie. And then they exported the Duluth model around the world. It is the most commonly used domestic violence intervention program in the world. And it's based on a lie. Now, why is this important? It's because children don't have their fathers. And these single mother households, to bring this full circle, turn into shit shows. The kids are out of control. The teenage kid, mom tries to discipline teenage kid. Teenage kid has mental health problems because he's depressed. He's got no good mentorship. So he punches mom in the face. He says, "Hey, bitch, I'm not putting up with your shit anymore." He gives her 5 across the face, which is probably what her husband should have done back when they were together. And she's like, "What the fuck?" And then he starts going out and committing crimes. It's like, oh, she ain't doing shit. She ain't doing shit. So now I'm going to go run wild. And now you have a crime-ridden neighborhood. And it's freaking ridiculous. And, all these kids are doing this, and you see it. And so again, I'm going to get this back. There's another report. Again, this was Patrick Fagan as the officer, and this was back in 1995. And he was saying that the rise in violent crime, and here's where we're talking about violent crime now, Lone Wolf. I apologize, I didn't grab this before. The rise in violent crime parallels the rise in families abandoned by fathers. High crime neighborhoods are characterized by high concentrations of families abandoned by fathers. The rate of violent teenage crime corresponds with the numbers of families abandoned by fathers. Now, obviously, this is important, and Patrick Fagan, bless his heart, he's got some good information here, but he's cucked as just as much as the rest of them are, because he blames fathers for feminism's war on men, fathers, and family values. And it's sad because everybody does it. I mean, you have gynocentrics on the right, which are the trad cons that they think that every woman is a princess and every man is an asshole. And then you have the feminists who just hate men. They just want to kill all men and put them on a farm. I mean, it's retarded. So when it comes to this sort of thing, when you're having this conversation about this, you can't really have a legitimate conversation about crime prevention without addressing the underlying cause. Because, but it's like, well, some of these criminals are drug addicts. Some of these criminals have mental health histories. Some of these criminals have, all these other societal impediments that cause them to do that. Yes, and every one of those societal impediments is caused by single motherhood.
All right, I have a
single
question.
mothers. Go ahead.
I want to address something that one of my regular viewers who, is from my audience, who probably has no idea what you're about, what you're talking about. His name is Rex. Now, what is the rate of men who abandon their families as opposed to men who have been ousted, basically, by the woman they loved? Like, my buddy Greyskull here can completely vouch for. And before you answer, I'm going to ask him, too. You wanted to
ask the question again?
Tax, right? Until you...
I tried.
Okay.
I tried.
So it wasn't like, oh, I'm just going to abandon my wife.
No.
Okay. All right. So
I can tell you.
What is the difference? Like, what is the rate of men who actually legitimately abandon their families as opposed to the rate of men who are they get their families taken from them by the woman?
Oh, that's an easy question. It's less than 30% of the men that actually legit abandon their families. The men that actually really fight and really try to keep that family intact and keep it together is over 70%. We know this because we know what the divorce file rate is between men and women. And women file divorce over 70% of the time, Whereas men, obviously, 70% minus that, it's 30%. It's like in the 70s. It's like 71 to 75. I've seen it as high as 80, but I want to be a little more conservative and say 70. And again, it's because society, feminist society now, has lionized the single mom. I mean, all these single moms are painted as heroes. All these single fathers are painted as pieces of shit. And I think there's something else that needs to be addressed here too while we're on this conversation.
Do you think it's because do you think that the like family court judges, for example, do you think that they ignore these statistics because they're so indoctrinated that they really believe that single motherhood is best for the child, or do you think it's more because they don't want to look bad in front of their peers?
I think it's a combination of the two. I think a lot of this stuff, especially when you're talking about a judge, you're talking about somebody who they are a legal scholar. They are somebody who has, they've practiced law for 10 years or more. You don't get elected as a judge, at least in a normal county court. You don't get elected as a judge until you've got some experience, unless you've got all kinds of political connections and friends, which a lot of these people don't. But the sad part about it is that they've been indoctrinated their entire careers. So, they might have been a victim advocate or a prosecutor in domestic violence, or they might have been a family law attorney before they were a judge. But then once they're a judge, they're repeating the same rhetoric, and they have to take continuing education. So they get indoctrinated every time they take that continuing education.
Right. So you think it's more that they're just indoctrinated than that they actually just ignoring the statistics?
Well, one of the things that Turd Flinging Monkey and I talked about is that there's 3 types of feminists, and this comes from him, not from me. So I want to make sure I don't take any credit for this. Younger feminists are like the true believers. They're the idealistic ones who think, oh, we need to fight for equality and everything's cool. And then you have the middle-aged feminists or the professional feminists who they're feminists because they make money being feminists. And then you have the older feminists who they know the truth, but they just straight hate men. These are the postmenopausal hags. These are the giant chicks that are, they're aging. They've hit the wall. And what I mean by the wall is that they're beyond breeding age. They don't look attractive anymore. You guys have seen these women. They're at the bar at 1:30 in the morning trying to pick up the younger guys who were drunk. Back in the day, we called them cougars, so because they're so fucking predatory. So, I mean, we've all seen them. And these older women, and especially these women who are attorneys who work in the family law system, they all know. They don't give a shit. So, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I got you. We're on the same page.
Okay. Lone Wolf, I apologize. I forgot what I was ranting about.
I had just asked you, how many men have had their families taken from them as opposed to abandoned their families.
Got it. Okay, so I wanted to touch on a second point about the guys, the 30% that have abandoned their kids. Okay. In my book, I talk about a survey that was done that they found that 41% of women of breeding age lie about being on birth control. In chapter 7, I go into detail about how these women will sperm jack people, where feminists are teaching women how to sperm jack people. And there's a bunch of horror stories included in chapter 7 where I go into that in detail. And the reason I bring it up is because a lot of these men in that 30%, a lot of those men were trapped into fatherhood. They were lied to. They were, told that the woman couldn't get pregnant. That's a real common one. You can go in raw, I wasn't pregnant. Or, they sperm jack them with the condom, or they ply them with alcohol. I've even seen, there's a website that women can actually purchase a false positive paternity test. They can purchase them online. They go to their pregnant friends and they get a paternity test and they go, oh my God, look, I'm pregnant. And then they're like, well, since I'm already pregnant, I can't get pregnant again. We can have unprotected sex. Well, then what they do, that's sperm jacking. So she's not pregnant. She wants to get pregnant. And so she shows you the fake paternity test and your dumbass believes her. And then you're like, oh yeah, this is, and you're like, okay, I guess I can go raw. Everything's fine. And then bam, she's really pregnant. So instead of having the kid at 9 months when she told you, or 8 months, you have the kid at 11 months, and she's like, oh, just must have been a long pregnancy. Most guys are just like, they don't get it. So a lot of these guys who abandon, when they find out, they get pissed, and they're like, I'm fucking out of here. I am out of here. And they're just, they pop smoke and go. And then you got these other guys who the kid's not theirs. Like, it is legit not their kid. And they know it's not their kid. But because you can only challenge paternity within the first couple of years, you see, most of the time, you're not going to know that the kid isn't yours, especially if the guy she cheated with is of the same race as you. You're not going to know the kid's not yours until puberty. Because that's when a lot of those features come up. And then, you can confirm, yeah, that's not my kid. That's the neighbor, or that's the postman, or that's whoever. And then you're like, well, I need to get the fuck out of here. Or, if you see kids 11 or 12 years old, you're like, oh yeah, that's not my kid. Well, that's too late, because feminists, they knew. So one of the things they do is they change the law so that if you don't challenge the paternity early on, you waive your right. You're considered a legal father, even if you're not. And there are plenty of cases in the news in the last 20 years of these guys who will go out and they'll get paternity tests, and they find out the kid's not theirs. They tell the judge. Feminist judges don't care. They're like, fuck you. You were dumb to let her cheat. They don't give a shit. Now, the reason I bring this up is because, and I state this in my book as well, in the United States, there is a 30% paternity fraud rate. 30%, 3 in 10. Okay? In the UK, it's closer to 50%. It's like 47 or 48%. It's retarded. So, a lot of these guys, 3 in 10 fathers are raising a kid that's not theirs. And again, this goes to the breakdown of the family. So, if a father finds out the kid's not theirs, they're like, you know what? Go play hide and go fuck yourself. I'm out of here. You fucking whore. And that's what they say. And then they leave. And that's part of that 30%. So, before you start, and again, for your audience that are here, before you start demonizing that 30% of men who abandon their families, you got to understand that they're not abandoning their family. They're abandoning the family of their wife and the guy they got cucked to, because they didn't consent to being cucked. And if they did consent to being cucked, well, they're cucks and they deserve what they get. But the reality is that, holy shit, really? It's retarded. So 7 out of 10 women will file divorce at least, and they're the ones who monkey branch out. So again, at the end of the day, that's what's creating this problem is that we've made divorce the vogue thing for women to do. In fact, if you look at women, right? Remember the Make app that came out? You guys remember that?
I have a lot of fun with that one.
Yeah. All right. So there was an app that came out for iPhone and for Android. It was made by a guy from the Eastern Bloc, and it was called Make app. Now, the reason that this guy made this app was that it was basically an app to take a woman's makeup off so that you could know what she looks like without makeup. And the reason that he did this was to fight sex trafficking. So women who were kidnapped and forced into prostitution, and they were taken to different countries, that basically you could take the makeup, you could snap a picture of her, you could see what she looked like without makeup and go, yeah, she was kidnapped and forced into prostitution. Well, what do we do in the West? We take it and we snap pictures of all these women that try to make themselves look like 8s when really they're 4s because they have fantastic makeup skills. Feminists lost their goddamn minds. Yeah, I'm surprised that there wasn't I'm surprised there wasn't a movement to oppose make app rape. That's how bad it was, because they're like, holy shit, they're going to see how ugly I am without my makeup. The reason I bring this up is because, women wear so much makeup today. And the reason this is important is it women, like, you get a woman who's a 5, right? And she thinks she wants her fucking Christian Grey. So she puts on all this makeup, the war paint, and then she goes looking for the most attractive man she can find. And then, the second he fucking takes off the makeup, or she comes out of the shower without her makeup, and she's like, hey, baby. And he looks at her and she's so ugly, he turns to stone. That shit happens. It's an issue. Or like plastic surgery. Holy shit. There was a guy in China who, this woman was absolutely hot. She had this great plastic surgery. the kid came out looking like a fucking Asian pig. Like a fucking orc or some shit. The guy's like, oh my God. And then he like started investigating because he thought that she cheated on him with like an ugly dude. And so he figured out that she had this plastic surgery. He got pictures of her before she had it and how ragged she was. And he's like, I thought you had good genetics. Holy fuck, he divorced her, he sued her, and he won. Fucking awesome.
I got some pretty crazy stories.
That made my night.
I'll have to tell them another time.
Yeah. China, they don't fuck around. They don't give a shit about feminism. Yeah. So, I mean, you have to understand, though, but these women, they're 5s and 6s and 7s, and they run around there and they act like they're fucking supermodels. They put on all this makeup, and then they're like, oh, well, I deserve my Christian Grey because, they ovulated and they went out on ladies' night and they fucked Chad because, for Chad, it was Tuesday and it was a rainy Tuesday and there wasn't anybody there and she was easy. So he's like, yeah, I banged her. She's a 3 or 4, but I banged her. And the lady's like, oh, I got pump and dumped by this guy. So this is the guy I deserve to be married to. So then she settles for a guy who's within her sexual market value. And she's, of course, settling. To her, that's settling because, she spent one night fucking 5 years ago and she found some super hot rich guy who was like, yeah, I need my dick wet and I guess you'll do. And she's like, oh, he cared about... No, he didn't care about you. You were just a fucking bukkake choke slammer on an off day. So it's ridiculous. So these women, they're taught that any man that they go with, any man that's within their sexual market value, any man worth their time, they're settling. So that's number one. So they're like, oh, that's why, when a guy asks a woman to marry him and, she's like, well, should I get married or should I not? Well, yeah, you probably, in a non-feminist world, she would say yes, and they would get married and they would do their thing and live happily ever after. But today, feminists have pushed this promiscuity culture where these women are being lied to and they're told, oh, I can have it all. And then they go and they self-destruct their family because of fucking Tinder or all this other shit. Or they go on to like the adultery Reddit, or they go to all these other places where they can lie and cheat and not get caught. And then they end up alone. Their kids hate them. Their ex-husband hates them. Their families hate them. And you know what's funny about divorce? When you get done with divorce, all your friends are gone. All your friends you had when you were married, they don't stick around.
Yep.
Yeah, Greyskull,
they see the drama.
That I've heard him tell the stories.
Yeah, they don't stick around, and this is for her as well. This is not just for him. She loses her friends, she loses her social connections, so she's lonely. Then she gets older and she hits the wall, and she's not as attractive anymore. So now she's got to put on and do that fantastic makeup, and she has to go to the bar at 1:30 in the morning. Hopefully the fucking beer goggles will fucking make up for it. It's ridiculous, and it's a pathetic existence. It is. And so feminism destroys not just families, but it destroys entire communities. It destroys children. And here's the other thing. It creates multi-generational problems. So if your mom is divorced or if your dad is divorced, the odds of you getting divorced if you hook up with a woman is super high. If your parent had a child out of wedlock, the odds of you having a child out of wedlock go up. If your parents had mental health issues, even though they may have not have been genetic, because of the nurture, you're more likely to have mental health issues. All these things are related to feminism's war on marriage and men. And again, there are so many people out there who've been divorced that it's at epidemic levels. And we see the societal destruction. Look at the left coast. Look at California. And for those that don't know, I call California dog shitistan. And the reason I call it dog shitistan is because they have a statewide hepatitis A outbreak. They are a socialist shithole with multiple tax agencies. Like, businesses are fleeing it left and right. The crime rate is through the roof. In the city of Oakland, there's somewhere between 80 and 150 crimes the police will not show up for. Like, if you're a victim of these crimes, many of them are felonies, you have to go online and you have to fill out an online police report because they just won't fucking show up. You've got multiple cities that have gone bankrupt. You've got Antifa. God, I forget the name of it. There was a city that their city council recently voted to pay off a gang so that they wouldn't commit crime. And I'm like, well, we already have an organization like that. It's called fucking law enforcement. Why don't you fund your law enforcement and put these son of a bitches in jail and hold them accountable instead of trying to pay them protection money? They're doing everything backwards in California, and it is a shit show. And liberals are trying to get this to be the nation. This is the nation that they want. They want the nation of dog shitistan. That's what they want, and it's absolutely insane. And so, the best way to fight this, and to go back to King Greyskull's statement or question earlier, how do we fight this? It has to be a multifaceted approach, and there has to be a lot of an effort there. But the problem is this: there's been a men's rights movement for decades, and anybody who opposes feminism is automatically considered an MRA. And feminism, just in the United States, it's a multi-billion-dollar industry. Okay, there are feminists in every state legislature, every courthouse. I mean, feminists run academia. They run the medical field. They are saturated everywhere. There are over 3,800 charities with the word woman in them that are feminist charities, just with the ones with the word woman in them. Not to mention that there are over, I think it's like 164. I could be wrong. It might be 148. I don't remember exactly. But it's like around 150 political action committees, PACs, super PACs, that are feminist super PACs, just with the word woman in them. And if you want to give you an example of how much control feminists have, look at the 2016 election. Okay, let's just go ahead and do a quick post-mortem while we're here. Hillary Clinton, and we know this because there's documents proving this. Give me a second. I'm gonna take a drink.
Yeah.
And no, I'm not drinking alcohol. I'm drinking water. Yeah.
After this talk,
Hillary Clinton in 2016, she paid the Democratic National Committee to run it, to do what she wanted them to do. And they fucked Bernie Sanders out of the primary. He was supposed to be the guy to go in the primary. They actually kicked his supporters out of the DNC, out of the primary. They kicked him out. And then they hired a bunch of people off of Craigslist to take those seats to make it look like it was full. When Bernie Sanders people sued her and sued the DNC told the court, we don't have to respect our party's votes. We can make these deals in the back room, and you just got to take it and like it. We don't care if you consent. We're not giving you dinner or a movie, and we're not giving you any lube. We're going in dry. And that was pretty much what they told the voters. Basically was fuck off. Now we find out that, Hillary has shared all these emails, and they're finding more emails every day. Those emails were classified. They were illegally on an illegal server. Other people have done the same thing Hillary has done. Every one of them has gone to federal prison. Okay? The FBI is full of feminist manginas. The federal government is full of feminist manginas. Now we're finding out that feminists and Hillary Clinton, who is like they're feminist, we find out that the Clinton campaign purchased the dossier against Trump that was basically all lies and was used to get the FISA warrant. That's federal corruption. She should be in prison for the rest of her life. But the reason she's walking free is because feminists run the country. So at the end of the day, in order for us to deal with that, we're just going to have to sit and ride it out. I think that what's going to happen is that feminism is going to run itself into the ground. And when there does, there's going to be some kind of like economic collapse or some kind of financial issue that's going to happen. And once that happens, I think you're going to see a reset, and you're going to watch all these people abandon feminism. Because here's the thing, everybody talks about how, feminism is in the decline and this and that. Well, the reality is that women don't have to identify as feminists anymore. They get privileges men don't get. They have rights that men don't have. So, and again, I'm speaking from a U.S. perspective for anybody who's outside the United States. So, they don't have to identify as feminists anymore because they won. And, I've talked to TradCon women. I did an interview on my channel with Barbara for you to see. She's TradCon. She's absolutely TradCon. She hates promiscuity culture. She hates feminism. And she understands that as a woman, she has privileges men don't have. And I asked her, A tradcon woman would be like a traditionalist woman or a traditional conservative woman. So yeah,
like
for those
Republican, in other words.
Yes, more likely to vote Republican. Correct. And she's admitted that as a woman, she has privileges men don't have. So I asked her. I said, "Well, are you willing to give up those privileges?" And she said, "No." I have a Q&A thought that is on my show, my live show, and I've asked her about the same thing, and she won't give up her privileges. She's like, "No, I like my privileges." She understands. They know what's up. So, but again, if you take the rights away, and I say unearned rights, they're like, "Yeah, we'll go along with it," but they won't give them up without that. And when I say take rights away, I want to make sure that things are abundantly clear. I'm talking about rights as related to responsibilities. If you're a man and you're 18 years old, you have to sign up for selective service, which is the draft. It's conscription. If you don't sign up, you are automatically ineligible for any federal job. You cannot get financial aid. You cannot vote. And you're basically you're like sort of a pariah. But if a woman chooses not to sign up for selective services, and you can't get financial aid for school. If a woman chooses not to sign up for the draft, she can still vote. She can still get financial aid. She can still go get a federal job. And she can do all those things. So those are privileges that women have that men don't. And all I'm saying is that if you don't have skin in the game, then you shouldn't get benefit from it. And we have a situation now in the country where we have a welfare state, and it is a shit show. And that's a technical term, not an ad hominem attack. You look at public pensions, you look at police officer pensions, you look at firefighter pensions, you look at all these public pensions that are out there, teacher pensions. They're underfunded because all these Democrats and all these feminists that are in control of these things, they're looting them through ridiculous wages. You get some of these people making $300,000 and $400,000 a year doing $50,000 worth of work. And now, again, we're at stage 4 cancer. So the best thing we can do is to take care of ourselves, both as men and as citizens, and try to be good citizens, and to support strong communities. And frankly, I think a lot of these communities are well beyond saving when it comes to crime and some of these other things. Like I said, you look at Oakland, you look at California. I think Baltimore has turned into an absolute shit show. You look at parts of Chicago. You look at Detroit. I mean, Detroit, they've tore down part of the city of Detroit because they're trying to recover it. There are people who love these cities who are good, hardworking people, but they're fighting this monolith that are like, well, anytime you want to have accountability, that's just a tool of patriarchy. Being personally responsible, that's just oppression. And again, you see this, and it's an indoctrination that's happening everywhere. It's happening in our schools. It's happening in our colleges. It's happening at the places we work. You have sexual harassment policies that are basically set up based on the Duluth model. They're basically there to discriminate against men. So, I don't really know what the viable solution is, but I do know what needs to happen. And what needs to happen is, in my opinion, is that feminism needs to be eradicated, and all the laws associated with it from about 1980 forward, they all need to be repealed. And we need to go back to a society where female hypergamy is not rewarded and male dominance is not criminalized. Because feminists have destroyed the social contract between men and women. And even intact relationships are under attack. Even men and women who love each other. Women are getting all these messages from social media. They're getting messages from, the movies they watch. They're getting messages from their friends. Even the churches have been indoctrinated. I did an interview recently with another YouTuber, Sunrise Hoodie, who he's very much a Christian, and he does a Sunday sermon on YouTube, and he gives advice for men. And even he said that feminists have indoctrinated the church and have tried to change it so that men are demonized and women are lauded. And so it's not that women shouldn't be. I want to make sure that's abundantly clear. Like I don't hate women. This isn't about women. And when I talk about feminists, I'm not talking about women. I'm talking about feminists. And what people don't understand is, and what they try to reframe is they try to go, well, if you hate feminists, you hate women. No. Feminism is an ideology. Women are a biological sex. So at the end of the day, you know, you have to teach these people biology 101. So, you know, it's sad. And so now, you know, again, we fast forward, or I should say we go back to the original reason I came here. When you destroy the family unit, you destroy your neighborhood, you destroy your community, you destroy your society. And if you don't believe me, look at the facts. The facts don't care about your opinion. They don't care about what you believe. But in every case, in every situation where you have a high crime community, whether it's a neighborhood in Atlanta, whether it's Detroit, whether it's Los Angeles, or any other major city where it's primarily single moms, the crime rate goes through the roof. The kids turn out worse, and it turns into a multi-generational cancer. So for me, you know, I'm MGTOW. I go my own way. I do, and that's what MGTOW is. It's men going their own way. Because I realize, at least for myself, the best thing I can do is educate people and let them know what's going on. But at the end of the day, it's going to have to be somebody other than me that changes it. Because honestly, I don't have the solution. I think we're in stage 4 cancer. I think that the patient is going to die soon. And when it does, hopefully, you know, enough of us will be around to rebuild.
Yeah, I was going to say that may be the best thing, honestly. It's just a complete reset. And it's funny that you bring up the church too, because it's I'm a Christian and I attend a local church here, and we haven't had that feminist takeover, I guess. It's still a pretty traditional church, but if you actually dig into the Bible and if you just read the things that the Apostle Paul wrote, where it talks about it's better to be unmarried, it's better to be as I am, because then you can focus on serving the Lord. It's funny how feminism has infiltrated that with things like, you know, verses like that to contend with.
Yeah. Well, what they're doing is they're I'm sorry, I didn't hear you, Lone Wolf.
We talk about stuff regarding a possible collapse on this very show, if you guys are interested. I know some people are a little disappointed that we haven't spoke much about guns specifically. This is different from my normal content. You guys are absolutely correct. But it does sort of tie into firearms, because there is this certain demographic that vote against firearms ownership. As my guest has laid out, it does tie into crime. So, you know, it was related, and it is a bit different, so just bear with it, guys. Sorry, DJ, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, it's actually kind of funny, because I know there's feminists that are trying to actually change the Bible as well. They're trying to change the word men, or I'm sorry, they're trying to change the word father to people in the new NIV Bible. Yeah, they're trying. They're pushing it.
Plumber asked me a question I'm going to respond to.
Go for it.
Plumber, in my church, it's very traditional. We're a Baptist, Southern Baptist church, and it's very traditional. The man is the head of the household. But you know, we also follow the rule of husbands love your wives as Christ loved the church. So I mean, the wife is supposed to be subservient to the husband, but we're also supposed to look after the needs of the wife. So I hope that answered your question.
Okay, on that note, I think we're going to go to the question and answer section of the stream. So I think I'm going to do it how I've seen other people do theirs. So put the word question in like brackets or parentheses, and then your question, so it's easier for me to pick out. And we'll just wait a minute for to catch up for them to ask the questions. We've reached about an hour and a half, by the way, DJ, and I know you got somewhere to be in a little bit, so.
Yeah, that's fine. We can. Yeah, I appreciate that. Yeah, I can stay up till 9 p.m. Eastern.
Got it. Cool. That's about a half hour. First question is for me. What brand of AK is that? This is a Wasser 10. I made it in Romania, and it has served me well, and I'm sure it'll last a long time. And I recommend them to anybody. If you want to get an AK, do not buy American, please, for fuck's sake. All American AKs are failing right now. They're destroying themselves. Get a Wasser at least, please.
Let me throw something in on that too. Guys, he's absolutely right. If you're in the market for an AK, stick with Romanian or Polish. Stay away from Century Arms, American-made. The RES-47 and the C-39V2, stay away from them. They're expensive trash.
Okay, question for DDJ. What is your favorite gun? You don't necessarily have to own it, I'm assuming.
God, my favorite gun. You know, I really like. I'm old school. I like the FNFAL. So I think that. Yeah, it's. Yeah, you know, I really like that particular gun. And I think the MP5 is probably the fun one I like for close quarters. And then as far as the pistol is concerned, you know, I like the 357 revolver. So I like Smith & Wesson. You know, plus P 357 is very solid. Well, yeah, and you know, here's the thing. Like the nice thing about a 357 is that you can stagger plus P ammo, snake shot plus P ammo, and that way, you know, if the first shot is the snake shot, you slow them down, and then the second shot's your finisher. So.
All right, let me get to Big McTow Life's comment.
Oh, and by the way, when I say Smith & Wesson, it needs to be a 6-inch barrel. Just FYI, 4-inch barrel's not long enough.
All right, gotcha. He likes it long. You heard it here, guys.
Now, yeah, you can. Now you know.
And on that note, B. McTell Life says, DD Gay, when did you come out of the message deleted?
I don't know. Now you know.
All right. Any more questions? Please make sure you do the brackets so that I can pick it out. The chat's a lot more active than usually, which is great. I guess this guest pulls in a lot of people. Okay, Demented Assassin asks, what do you think about the recent start of attack on masculinity itself? Very good question. I'm sure that's for you.
So yeah, Demented Assassin, let me explain something to you. That attack hasn't been recent, but it has been very public. I think that it's actually kind of funny, and it's really sad because, you know, you have all like the soy boys, you have all these people with low testosterone, and all this indoctrination of men where they're trying to make every piece of masculinity bad. Even the guys that are going to the gym, like you see guys in the gym, they're all like metrosexual guys that are trying to suck each other's dick in the shower. It's ridiculous. And it's not that I have anything against homosexuals. I have an issue with the demonization of heterosexual men. And so that's why they've reframed it. I think it's horrible. And if you look at the schools, it's a systemic attack there as well. I mean, you know, boys learn by doing things and by being active. And yet most of these schools have killed their trade programs. So these men are not, or these young men are not able to do things that they should be doing. They don't have the ability to work with their hands. They don't have recess. And so it's an absolute huge issue. So I think as a father, and I'm a father, and so, you know, I exercise my kids. I take them out, I make sure they run around, and that's what boys need, you know, and then I make sure that I pay attention to them. And I think that traditional masculinity has to be taught by a father. But they can't do it in a broken home.
And Mudo didn't use the brackets, but I'll ask it anyways. He asks, any word on when you'll do a collab with Marcus from GW4MB?
Oh, the groundwork for the metaphysics of MGTOW? I don't know. I mean, I suppose as schedules allow, I know that he's in Europe, and so it makes it a little bit more difficult. I know that a lot of the people I collab with are all over. But yeah, I mean, if the opportunity comes up, then sure, I'd be happy to do that. I have a feeling though, with the recent unnecessary drama with the red pill coin scam, that I think everybody wants to let that go away and run its course before we do any kind of collab like that.
Okay, cool. And I'm going to shell again real quick. Just so you guys know, I am an affiliate. You can give me biddies, or you can subscribe or anything like that. You don't have to. You're just more than welcome to be here and chat or listen or whatever. I just want to put it out there. But I do have a couple of cool little emojis here. So, just putting that out there. With that said, the Plumber Speaks has a question for you. You used the word hypergamy a while ago, but I don't think some here have ever heard of that. Can you define it for them?
Yeah, when I first used it, because apparently, Plumber, you were having an old man moment, I actually defined it then, but I'll define it again. Hypergamy is basically a woman's desire to get the best provision and the best genetics for her child and for herself. It's a biological instinct.
Excellent. And moving right along.
I think Stephen Molyneux brings up an interesting point with that, how when back in the tribal days, when if a tribe would come in and conquer another tribe, they'd kill all the men and the women would just hook up with them and to continue to pass along their genetics.
Can't argue with that one.
Yeah.
Okay, next question for DDJ. Do you teach your kids martial arts?
I do.
That was easy. Okay, next question.
DDJ, what's your background? Your martial arts background?
I have a black belt in Ishinryu Karate-Do, which is Okinawan, and then I have a black belt in World Taekwondo Federation Taekwondo and American Taekwondo Federation Taekwondo. I've also worked out with a couple professional martial artists, one of which was a 2-time world champion out in Washington State. I've also been to a lot of clinics with a variety of martial arts on top of that. In junior high and high school, I wrestled and went to state every year. And I had the good fortune of actually studying with a Hapkido stylist and learned a bit of joint manipulation for about 1.5 years. It was kind of an informal thing and went from there. So that's my base foundation. Oh, and I did boxing for 1 year, and I did French and Italian fencing for 2 years, and that includes Florentine, which is dual weapon fighting, in addition to the martial arts weapons.
Okay, one thing I ask of you guys, please, when you ask the questions, specify who you're asking. That would help me out greatly. Let me get to the next one real quick. Solo.
Looks like we got here. Solo.
Yeah, Solo said,
Yeah.
MGTOW. What all would be in your bug out bag as far as guns?
I can start because mine will be pretty simple. Basically a bolt action 30-06, caliber 30 to 35 caliber air rifle,
Thank you for the bits.
and then of course Smith & Wesson 357.
I want to go a little simpler with that. I'm going to say, as far as a bug out bag goes, trying to keep things light,
I will show you.
I'm going to go with a reliable AR-15 and a full-sized, what I would consider to be a combat pistol, probably in 9mm caliber. Just because in a bug out situation, you're not trying to be stealth anymore. You're not trying to conceal carry. You're trying to bug out to wherever it is you need to go. And, of course, your pistol is always, the purpose of your pistol is to get to your rifle. So I'm going to carry an AR-15 and a full-size pistol chambered in 9mm.
All right, it's my turn. Sorry.
All right, that sounds good. And of course,
Easier to show you guys.
clearly Lone Wolf has no bug out bag thing because he ran away. So he's just going to bend over and take it.
Yeah, I heard you talking behind my
Talking mad shit. Okay. Absolute mad shit.
I actually went to go get him so I could show him. I have two.
He said, I'm going to get roller skates, thigh-high leggings.
First one is my primary bug-out bag. I'm actually building another bug-out bag. I already have one built, but this is... I basically just separate the upper and lower receiver. This is an AR pistol that I have set up. This is my primary bug-out bag. Now let me show you in my secondary. This is my newly purchased Kel-Tec sub 2K. It's a 9mm pistol caliber, obviously carbine, and it's real handy. Folds it real nice. Takes Glock mags.
How durable is that?
They're fairly reliable and they're very simple. And they're not exactly super expensive either. So, you know, it's one of the Kel-Tec's better inventions, I can say.
Okay.
And if you guys want another stream, I will show you the entirety of my primary bug-out bag. Like I said, the second one is in the process of being built. It's not done yet, or anywhere near done, but we'll get to that in another stream.
Let me throw something in here real quick on that with the Sub 2000. One big advantage to having something like that, guys, is let's say that you have a Glock pistol, and that's your combat pistol. Your magazines are going to be interchangeable with that. So it's kind of like back in the cowboy days when guys would carry a 44 caliber lever action and a 44 caliber revolver. You're running with one kind of ammunition. So just some food for thought there for anybody who's interested in checking out the Kel-Tec Sub 2000.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm just real old school, so there you go.
I'm a 1911 man personally, but
old man status.
Yeah. All right, I got a question here for me from Dreaming Music. DDJ, when a woman files for divorce, how often do they also file false DV charges at the same time? Why do they do it? That's because false domestic violence charges are they're considered the silver bullet in divorce, and they're kind of like they're like the win button, instant win button, because they can change the cost to defend against a false domestic violence charge can be up to $50,000 in a family law court. So if you're an average guy, you know, you might max out your credit cards getting all that shit handled. And then once you get it handled, your attorney's going to leave because there's no more money in the bank or on your credit cards to fight the rest of the divorce. So they do this basically to wear you down. That's why they call it the silver bullet of divorce. And honestly, I've done a video. It's called "Avoiding Marriage is Not Enough," and I talk about how often these domestic violence restraining orders are filed, and it's a very high rate. So I think every year they give out on these civil domestic violence restraining orders where nobody's ever been charged. They give out like 1 million of them a year. It's a complete shit show. So yeah.
Oh yeah. By the way, I do have a 300 blackout AR pistol. And I saw someone comment on that a second ago. Let's see here. Do you guys play PlayerUnknown's Battlegrounds? Yeah, I have it on PC and Xbox One, but I don't really play video games that often.
I don't play it, but I don't play it by choice. It looks like it's a really fun game, but apparently one of the big complaints that people have with the game is that a lot of people stream it, and when streamers get their asses kicked, they usually report people for getting their asses kicked, and those people get banned. And I guess it's really common, and it's like they just need to learn to get good and shut the fuck up instead of fucking crying and killed. Oh, I know. But they're accusing people of stream sniping because they suck. So, you know, if you're a streamer, you need to be good at the fucking stream you're playing, unless you're showcasing that you're retarded.
I only play Skyrim, so I'm not a video game.
Yeah.
This guy, I'm going to make it simple with your question. Of course, it's a good idea. Anything that's going to keep you active and moving around is a good idea.
All right.
Lots of comments.
Well, I think.
Questions? Oh, you go ahead, man. I'm going to wait for more questions to come out.
Yeah, I was going to say, I really appreciate you having me on. I know it's a, you know, obviously it's a different kind of stream than what you normally used to. I appreciate the opportunity to speak with your audience about these things, and of course, show my book and my YouTube channel. Yeah, I mean, it's
a couple of guys in my normal audience. One for certain.
Well, you know, I mean, I get it.
It's the red pill rage.
Yeah.
The guy is definitely not red pill. He's quite blue pill, from what he was saying.
And that's okay. I mean, you know, tears are welcome here. This isn't a safe space, but, you know, you can cry. Just don't expect us not to laugh at you.
Oh, Big MGTOW life being a potato.
Yep, of course he is. Well, I think we're probably squared away. Oh, there's the one there.
And, I mean, you can, at this point, you can leave at any time you want. You can stick around for another 15 minutes, or you can take off. And I know you have something else to do. And
yeah, I've got plans this evening. So with that in mind, let me go ahead and say my goodbyes. Thank you, King Greyskull and Lone Wolf, for allowing me to come on the stream. Thank you for everybody in the audience who tuned in. And I definitely will be uploading this to my channel as well once I grab a copy of it. So I appreciate it.
No problem. This will be saved, so I will get you a copy of it, man.
Hey, DJ, I'll let her buddy.
Yeah, absolutely. Buddy, if you have questions later on down the road or something else comes up, you know, feel free to come to my YouTube channel. You know, feel free to reach out to me on my live streams. I do a Q&A session on my live streams on every Sunday. And I put an announcement video up for those. So just, yeah, feel free to reach out. Don't be shy. And you guys take care of each other.
Yeah.
Take care.
Thanks, buddy.
Again, if anybody has any questions for my guest, if you're in my audience and you don't really know a lot of this stuff, he did work in family law. So if you have a question, you know, about, you know, divorce or anything like that, I do recommend you seek him out, and, you know, he can try to help you out. But I'm going to continue. You guys can ask questions. You can ask to see more of my guns. I know now that he's out of here. I'm going to, let's see here. I hope the audio balance is good enough. Let's see. Someone asked about the Hearing Protection Act. That died with the, as another commenter said, that died with the Las Vegas shooting, which was crazy. Yeah. And I'm not shocked.
It completely killed it. And the sad thing is, it looked like it was going to go forward.
It had a lot of support at the time, and now they're trying to attack rate-increasing devices. Do you guys go to Knob Creek Machine Gun Shoot? I have not, but I may this year. It depends on my schedule. I really want to go, but I don't know if I can.
Love to go. Just never had the opportunity.
And plus, some of my favorite gun YouTubers always end up there. I've actually met Hickok 45, guys. I think I've showed you a picture a couple of times. That dude is huge. Like, he is tall as fuck.
Yeah, Gilly Yoshi, I'm with you. The NFA is pointless in today's world. There's so many ways around it that it's became ineffective. I can put a brace on a pistol, and it may be the same length as an SBR, but one's legal and one's not, just because of the style of device you have on the end of it. The NFA honestly, it's a revenue generator.
Oh, the trolls have arrived.
Oh boy.
Stealth.
Oh boy. Absolutely.
Yeah, stealth is late to the party. Hey, Dreaming Music, I'm sorry, DDJ has taken off. DDJ has taken off. If you have any questions for him, by all means, seek him out, but he's not here.
I can't speak for DDJ, but there's a, what's it called, the Lautenberg Act, that says if you've been accused of a crime of misdemeanor violence, especially if you're in law enforcement or in the military, you're no longer allowed to carry a firearm. So it can cause you problems even if it's a false allegation. You're tied up until you can prove that you're innocent, which is hard to do.
Bump stocks. Very good question, Willie Wankus. I personally wouldn't use one. I actually have a better device than that. It's called the Frostech Echo Trigger. But I don't hate them. I think they're fine. You can bump stock using about anything. I've seen guys just they don't even have to use their belt loop. If you know who the Military Arms Channel is, he demonstrates this. You can bump fire without any help. So it's just an attack on basically semi-auto rifles. They want to redefine what semi-automatic is. That's the ultimate goal.
Yeah, bump stocks are not the problem.
And I see that Stealth has it appears that he has a sock puppet. I think he's got a sock puppet now.
You never know what the ATF's going to do. The ATF, they might decide. They may decide to ban the bump stock. The problem with the ATF is the ATF never sticks to things for very long. Look with the issue with the SIG braces. There for a while it was an issue. Or when they first came out, you could shoulder fire them with no problem. Then they issued this opinion letter saying no, you can't. And now we're back to it's fine to shoulder fire your pistol with a brace on the end. So it depends on how the ATF wants to go about it. If they want to actually make a law, they have to go through the process to do that. But if they're just going to sling opinion letters around, then it doesn't really matter what they do.
Okay, I think I got a question to answer here. Since when have I been into guns? For a long time. Really been shooting since I was a kid, but it wasn't until I was in the Army that I really picked up a fascination. I got to shoot at M249 Saw. Now that was fun. And of course, a lot of experience with the M16. And from then, wow, stealth, man, you just got broccoli. By the way, Watsy, you'd be nice to Mark. He just had a birthday, poor guy. He just did. He got broccoli. Stealth is one of my regulars that likes to come into control.
I only managed to get out in the woods one day, and yes, I did take it. I did not see anything. I got very cold and came home with nothing. But yeah, I did use it, and I shoot it quite a bit. I'm loving it.
Yeah, he loves that, and he loves the device that you have on it.
Yes.
Chill alert.
It worked great, man. I can't say enough about it, to tell you the truth. It's so much more convenient to carry, especially like in the area that I hunt. It's a lot of hills, a lot of up and down, a lot of running through the woods where you need two hands. And with the lever ring, my rifle's right in front of me. I don't have to worry about it.
I can balance myself, I can climb, all that stuff. It's great, man.
I don't even need to wear this anymore now that we're talking to him. My ears feel better already. H&K MR 762 or 712. I don't know what that is. I don't know what the 712. I know what a 762 is. You may be dyslexic or something. I think he means 762. H&K makes a lot of great products, but I don't know. I've heard. Well, no, that's the FN. That's the FN rifles. You know, I'm thinking because I know FN kind of got a contract with the U.S. military, and I've heard negative things about their rifles. Now H&K makes pretty high quality stuff, but it's overpriced in my opinion. Ooh, Glock Kitty. Very good question. Depends on whether you want to do the Form 1 or not, really. Someone mentioned that I don't have my stuff suppressed, and that's the exact reason. I just don't want it. I don't want to fiddle with the extra shit.
You're looking at a $200 tax stamp right off the bat, and then a lot of ATF paperwork, and once you've got that, there's a lot of restrictions too that fall into that.
I'm looking to move to another state at some point, and that would be a pain in my ass to have a suppressor or anything that would require a Form 1 to deal with.
And honestly, when you're running a 308, it really depends on what you're planning on doing with it. If you're going to hunt with it, it makes a difference if it's strictly like a self-defense rifle or like a running gun thing or a competition rifle. So if you could be a little more specific about what your plans are for it, it would help make a decision on that. Because you really, a muzzle brake is going to, it's going to reduce recoil, it's going to give you a more stable shot, and it's going to shoot a big ball of fire at the end of it. If you want to go with like a flash hider, you're not going to get you're going to feel more of the recoil, and you're going to have a little bit of muzzle rise with it. But your flash is going to be reduced. So it really depends on what you want to do with it.
Yeah, he has all the experience with 308. I have pretty much none. I know I'm in the works of buying one. It's probably next on my list, but I don't have any experience with them.
Yeah, if your issue is muzzle rise, get yourself a good muzzle brake. Seekins Precision makes an excellent muzzle brake. Spock's Tactical makes several good ones. But now keep in mind, if there's guys to your left or to your right, like if you're running in a team, for example, they may get a little aggravated with you for using the muzzle brake. So just keep that in mind.
Okay, and Budo asks, do I put my streams on YouTube as well? Currently, I do not, but I may do that. It would take a lot of editing to have to chop it up because I think I'm only allowed to post videos that are like 30 minutes long right now. So I'd have to chop it up in increments, and I may do that. Right now I actually have a couple of videos that I want to do for YouTube that I just haven't been able to because the weather's been pure shit. And I haven't been able to get outside and film because fuck snow. I'm not sure how to actually pronounce that. Audio is really low. Are you talking about my microphone? I may crank it up a bit. Everybody was saying that there was too much bleed over between the two microphones. So I'll up it a bit. Is this better? Both of them? I'll turn these up a bit more. Okay. Gotcha. You're a TFM disciple. Okay. Cantu. Okay, I don't know who that is. All right. Any other questions, guys? Now that the audio is a bit better. I do have an arsenal if you want to see more. I don't want to go get everything, but I can get a few more. Just for the lulls. I can show you something that I had Greyskull work on for me. Okay. Let me try to. How's that? Is that better? I'll show you something. Some of Greyskull's work. Yeah, he's, you know, he thinks he could have done better, but I think it was great. I think it was a good job. So,
The betting job turned out great. The paint job on the stock turned out.
We're going to do a show about Moses and the Gods, and this will be featured, so I'm only going to show it for a sec.
And that should be coming up pretty soon, I hope. Thanks, Lauren.
Alright, so he threw the stock on here, and I even had him paint it. Obviously, it's not perfect, but I like it. It's fine, and it's Russian. Rifle is fine. He even hooked me up with a curved bolt, which I'm very grateful for. So,
Really nice to see how it moves. I think it should groove pretty tight.
yeah, you said you might have to crown it, which is fine.
Yeah, we won't know for sure until we take it out. But if it doesn't groove solid after the bedding job, it's going to need to be for now.
Yeah, I have another one that is an original stock, which I'm keeping that way, and then I bought this one just so I could mod it out.
Thanks, Lord.
I'm going to have a stock, or not a stock, but a scope put on this. Can't wait for that. And you may have to recrown the barrel, but it's fine. Yep, Watsy, he plays Rust. And a certain Scottish guy who I'm cool with play Rust. Well, I think Mark has gotten kind of bored of Rust. I see him playing another game lately, but typically. Well, alright guys, we have reached the 2-hour mark. How many shekels? Well, the stock really isn't uber expensive. The stock runs, I think, I want to say 70, but don't quote me on it. I bought the stock for that. The Mosin itself was like 300. They've gone up quite a bit. And then Greyskull did all that work for me, free of charge, actually. Well, there was an exchange. I gave him the old parts for him to do what he will. He's got experiments he wants to do with the old parts. For his own devices.
I need to get with you on some advice about bending a bolt.
Yep, that's what he's going to do with my old bolt. He's going to see if he can do that himself.
I did. I bedded the action and tried to free float the barrel, and I was starting to be uncomfortable with the amount of material I was removing from the stock, so I kind of abandoned that. So
Stealth has returned. One of our favorite trolls here. Well, Watsy, if you want to keep coming around and watching my streams, I will teach you more. And it's basically what my shows are about. I know, again, this show was a bit different, but it was somewhat related, and it was my audience mixed with that guy's audience, and I thought it was a great show personally. I know Greyskull could talk to that guy for a long time, and he has a lot he wants to know about.
It is hard in Plumber. It's one of those, and that's where it comes in. I'm not a metallurgist, so it's hard for me to say, like, if you heat it up to bend it, I know you're going to have to retemper it, and I don't know how well that's going to work. So I'm going to get with somebody like you to get a little more experience with that kind of thing.
All right, guys, it's over the 2-hour mark, but here's the deal. I'm not going to stop talking to you guys. Anybody that wants to continue talking about firearms and stuff is welcome to join my Discord. Send me a message on here. I will send you a link to my Discord, and I'll be in the voice chat, and we can continue talking. But for purposes of the stream length, I need to end it here.
The Minute Assassin had a question. I'm going to respond to it real quick.
Go ahead.
If you're looking for an AR-15 that's going to be high value, or I'm sorry, high quality for a good value, look at the Smith & Wesson.
Send me a message.
The Smith & Wesson MP15 Sport 2. They run between $500 and $600, and they're awesome guns. They hold up. They're reliable. I've had a Wilson Combat and a Colt AR-15, and I'm telling you, and I say this in all honesty, that the Smith & Wesson MP is just as good. But since we're wrapping things up, I just wanted to thank you guys for coming out, and thank Lone for having me on.
Oh, you're the co-host, man. You're here anyways.
Well, I always appreciate it. I always enjoy when we get a chance to get together and do this. It's been kind of stressful lately with the holidays and everything that's going on, but I always appreciate it when we get together and do these streams and shows. Definitely.
I wish we had more time for it. If you guys want to watch him, he's got a YouTube, King Greyskull. It's probably pretty easy to find. I recommend it. He's got to be motivated to do more. So with that, we're going to end the stream. I'm going to, if you guys want to be a part of my Discord, if you're not a troll, I don't have time for that. You can troll my stream if you want, but Discord is for serious stuff. Send me a message here on Twitch, and I will send you a link to my Discord. And we can talk about guns. Anytime you want to talk about guns, post about guns, that's the place to be. Alright, guys. Here we go. It's the end. Have a good night, everybody.
See you guys.